They say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. But what if she doesn't show you not directly? Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And sometimes those reactions reveal something darker, something you were never meant to ignore." Today, we're diving deep into 7 hidden female behaviors that silently expose who she truly is, and if you don't see them, they might just destroy you emotionally. 1. The subtle disrespect. It often begins so subtly that you almost miss it: a sarcastic comment in front of her friends, an eye roll when you share your thoughts, or a decision she makes without considering you. At first, you rationalize it. She's just joking. Or maybe she had a bad day. But according to Carl Jung, these small cracks in behavior are far from random. They're glimpses into the unconscious, the hidden truth of how someone really feels beneath the surface. Disrespect rarely announces itself loudly. It seeps in quietly, disguised as humor or teasing. Over time, those small moments begin to shape how you see yourself. You start questioning your worth, doubting your instincts, and making excuses for her behavior. Jung believed that unconscious actions reveal what the conscious mind tries to hide, meaning. Her repeated dismissive gestures are not slips of the tongue, they're reflections of inner beliefs and suppressed emotions. When a woman disrespects you in small ways and never corrects it, it's not a joke, it's a message. And if you continue to overlook it, you teach her that it's acceptable. The truth is simple. What starts as a small joke eventually becomes a pattern of quiet control. 2. Emotional withholding. Silence can be one of the most powerful forms of manipulation, and also one of the hardest to recognize. When she stops communicating, avoids eye contact, or withdraws affection without explanation, it's not always about needing space. Sometimes, it's a subtle way of controlling the emotional tone of the relationship. Carl Jung referred to this as the shadow self, the hidden part of our psyche that contains the emotions, fears, and desires we suppress. Instead of expressing her frustration openly, she uses silence to create uncertainty. You start to question yourself: did I do something wrong? Should I apologize? Even when you haven't. That's exactly how emotional withholding gains its power. It shifts control by making you chase her approval and stability. True emotional maturity is about communication, not control. But when silence becomes her weapon, the relationship turns into a psychological game. Jung believed that such behavior reveals inner insecurity, the fear of vulnerability masked as strength. Recognize this pattern early. If someone uses affection as a tool for dominance instead of connection, you're not in a partnership. You're in a quiet war of power disguised as love. 3. Constant need for validation. There's a difference between enjoying appreciation and depending on it to feel alive. When a woman constantly seeks compliments, reassurance, or attention, whether from you or from the world, it's often a sign of something deeper. Carl Jung believed that this craving for validation is rooted in inner emptiness, an unhealed part of the psyche that tries to fill its void through external praise. On the surface, she may appear confident, but her self-worth is fragile, built entirely on how others perceive her. At first, you might feel special. She values your opinion, your approval, your attention. But soon you realize that no matter how much validation you give, it's never enough. Like pouring water into a cracked glass, everything you offer leaks out. Jung warned that such dependence on external affirmation leads to emotional instability. When her self-worth collapses, she'll unconsciously draw energy from you, making you responsible for her happiness. Be cautious once you become her emotional fuel tank. Your peace turns into her power source. Healthy love builds self-esteem. Insecure love drains it. True connection begins when someone feels whole on their own, not when they need you to prove their worth. 4. The mask of perfection. She appears flawless, kind, elegant, and full of warmth when others are watching. Everyone sees her as the perfect woman, the one who lights up a room effortlessly. But behind closed doors, the energy changes. The warmth fades, replaced by subtle coldness, mood swings, or quiet manipulation. Carl Jung described this duality as the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society, to appear admirable and accepted. It's not always intentional deceit. Rather, it's a defense mechanism designed to hide what feels too dark, too raw, or too imperfect to reveal. The problem arises when the mask becomes a lifestyle. The greater the contrast between who she is in public and who she becomes in private, the more inner conflict exists within her psyche. Jung believed that repressing the shadow, the true, unfiltered self, eventually creates emotional instability. You might start to feel confused, even guilty, wondering why her kindness disappears when no one's around. But remember, the persona's goal isn't connection, it's control of perception. When her outer grace hides inner turmoil, you're not seeing her, you're seeing her performance. And the longer you ignore the difference, the deeper you fall for the illusion. 5. Subtle competition. When every conversation turns into a competition, it's not love. It's ego disguised as affection. You share good news, and instead of celebrating, she redirects the spotlight to herself. You talk about a goal you achieved, and she subtly finds a way to outdo it. Carl Jung believed that genuine connection can only exist when the ego steps aside, when both people can admire each other without comparison. But when her validation depends on being better than you, the relationship becomes a quiet rivalry. Deep down, this behavior often stems from insecurity, a fear of being overshadowed. Rather than growing together, you end up walking on emotional eggshells, afraid to share your success. Real love celebrates, not competes. If she can't be happy for you without measuring herself against you, she's not building a bond, she's defending her fragile self-image. 6. The victim narrative. When every story she tells paints her as the victim, it's a warning sign. Her ex was toxic, her friend was jealous, her boss was unfair. The pattern is always the same. Everyone else is the problem. Carl Jung believed that the traits we criticize in others often reflect unhealed parts within ourselves. In other words, what she projects as blame is really avoidance, a refusal to face her own role in the chaos. People stuck in a victim mindset can't take accountability, because doing so would shatter the image they've built of being innocent. The danger is that, eventually, her narrative needs a new villain, and that will be you. You'll become the next person who changed, who hurt her, or who didn't understand. True maturity isn't about blaming others. It's about recognizing the patterns within ourselves that keep repeating the same story. 7. Emotional chaos. Emotional inconsistency. The shift from warmth to coldness without reason is one of the most confusing and draining experiences in a relationship. One day, she's affectionate and deeply connected. The next, she's distant, moody, or detached. Carl Jung believed such swings reveal a conflict between the conscious and unconscious mind, the parts of ourselves that desire love versus the parts that fear it. This internal war often comes from unhealed wounds, what Jung called the shadow self, the hidden pain, guilt, or fear she refuses to face. When someone hasn't integrated their shadow, their emotions become unstable, dictated by unresolved trauma. You'll try harder to bring back her warmth, but the more you give, the more she retreats. Eventually, you're not her partner, you're her emotional stabilizer. And unless she chooses to heal, her inner chaos will keep turning your peace into collateral damage. Carl Jung taught us that people don't hide who they are for long, they leak it through patterns, reactions, and silence. So don't ignore the quiet warnings. Because what starts as a spark of confusion often ends as a storm of heartbreak. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom.